I still remember the sound of that door. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, it didn't slam or creak like something out of a horror film. It just clicked. And in that small, quiet click, my whole world shifted. The cottage stood at the edge of the lake, surrounded by tall trees that swayed gently in the evening wind. It was the last place my wife ever felt truly happy. She used to sit on the wooden porch with her tea, watching the sun melt into the water, smiling like she had no regrets. After she passed, I couldn't step inside for almost a year. The cottage was sacred. It was hers. And now it was supposed to be my son's responsibility to look after it. "Don't worry, Dad," he had said. "I'll keep it safe. I promise." That promise echoed in my ears the night I decided to visit without telling him. I don't know why I went. Maybe it was instinct, maybe it was loneliness, or maybe, deep down, I already sensed something was wrong. The driveway had tire marks, fresh ones. The porch light was on. Music was playing softly inside. I felt confused. My son never mentioned coming here tonight. I walked slowly to the front door, and then I heard it. Laughter. Not just any laughter, a woman's laughter. Soft, intimate, comfortable. My chest tightened. I told myself it could be nothing. Maybe he was cleaning, maybe he invited friends. But when I pushed the door open, the scene burned into my memory. My son, on the couch, with another woman. Not just sitting, not just talking, her legs over his hand on her waist, in my late wife's cottage, on her favorite couch, under the paintings she loved. My blood boiled. Not because he was with a woman, he was grown. That wasn't the issue. It was where, it was how, it was the disrespect. And what hurt even more, he looked comfortable. Like this place meant nothing, like her memory meant nothing. The woman looked at me first, shocked. My son turned slowly. And when our eyes met, there was no guilt, just annoyance. "Dad, what are you doing here?" What was I doing here? The silence felt heavier than the air itself, and in that moment, I realized something terrifying. I didn't know my son anymore. Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand what that cottage meant. It wasn't just wood and bricks, it was her dream. When we first bought it, we were barely surviving financially. I worked double shifts, she saved every dollar she could. We skipped vacations, skipped luxuries. That cottage was our shared victory. She painted every wall herself. She planted the flowers. She chose that blue couch because it reminded her of the ocean. She would always say, "One day, our grandchildren will run around here." But she never got that day. Cancer doesn't wait for dreams. The last time she stood on that porch, she held my hand and whispered, "Promise me this place will always stay full of love." I promised. And now, it felt like that promise was being trampled. Back in the living room, I cleared my throat. "This isn't a hotel," I said quietly. My son rolled his eyes. "Dad, relax, we're just hanging out." Just hanging out. On your mother's couch, in the house built by her sacrifices. I turned to the woman. "Would you mind giving us a moment?" She stood up awkwardly and walked into the kitchen. My son sighed loudly. "You didn't have to embarrass me." Embarrass him? "Is this what you think this place is?" I asked. "It's just a cottage." Just a cottage. That word stabbed deeper than any insult. I realized something that night. He didn't value it because he didn't earn it. He didn't build it. He didn't sit beside a hospital bed watching the woman who created it slowly fade away. To him, it was just property. To me, it was her heartbeat. And that was when anger turned into something else. Not shouting, not rage, but clarity. If he didn't understand respect, he was going to learn it. I didn't explode that night. That surprised him. It surprised me, too. Instead, I simply said, "Lock up when you leave." Then I walked out. The drive home was silent, but inside my mind, a storm was building. Over the next few days, I started paying attention. I checked the cottage's electricity usage, higher than usual. Water bill? Higher too. Neighbors mentioned loud music over the past few weekends. Weekends, plural. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This was routine. I asked him casually over dinner, "You've been at the cottage a lot?" He shrugged. "Sometimes." "With company?" He smirked slightly. "Dad, I'm not a kid." The tone, that tone. It wasn't defensive, it was dismissive. And then came the line that changed everything. "You gave it to me anyway, right? So why does it matter what I do there?" I never transferred ownership. I only said he'd inherit it one day. But in his mind, it was already his. That night, I went to my study and opened the old file cabinet. Inside was the property deed. My name. Only my name. I stared at it for a long time. Then I made a decision. If he believed ownership came without responsibility, I would show him what real ownership meant. Before I moved forward with anything, I needed answers, not assumptions, answers. So I went back to the cottage unannounced the following Saturday afternoon. This time, the door was unlocked. Music again. Different song, different mood. I stepped inside quietly. The same woman was there, alone. She jumped when she saw me. "Oh, I didn't know anyone else would be here." "Clearly," I replied calmly. She looked uncomfortable and nervous. "Where's my son?" "He went to get groceries." I nodded slowly. "You've been here before." It wasn't a question. She hesitated. "Yeah, a few times." "A few times." "How does he describe this place to you?" I asked. She looked confused. "He said it's his family vacation house, that his dad doesn't really care about it anymore." That his dad doesn't care. That was the story he told. That I was some old man detached from it, irrelevant. I smiled slightly. "Did he tell you his mother built most of it?" Her eyes widened. "No?" "Did he tell you she passed away recently?" Her expression changed completely. "He just said she died years ago." Years ago. It had only been 18 months, and suddenly I saw something in her face. Doubt. Discomfort. She wasn't the villain. She was just another person fed a version of reality. That's when I understood something important. My son wasn't just disrespecting the cottage. He was rewriting our history to make it easier, to make himself look better. And that hurt more than anything. When he came back and saw me sitting there, the tension was immediate. "What are you doing here again?" I stood up slowly. "I think we need to talk." He sighed dramatically. "Dad, seriously." "No, you seriously." The woman quietly gathered her bag. "I think I should go," she whispered. My son looked annoyed, but she left anyway. Now it was just us, father and son, in the house built by the woman who connected us. And for the first time, I saw him not as my boy, but as a man who believed there were no consequences. He thought this was about a girlfriend, about control, about me being old-fashioned. But it wasn't. This was about legacy, about respect, about truth. And he had no idea. The real consequences hadn't even started yet.
People think revenge is loud, explosive, dramatic. But the most powerful revenge is silent. It's patient, and it doesn't scream. It waits. I didn't argue with him anymore after that day. I didn't lecture him. I didn't forbid him from going to the cottage. Instead, I did something far more dangerous. I let him believe he had won. Over the next month, I acted normal. We had dinner together. We talked about work. I even asked about the woman. He seemed relaxed, confident, like the storm had passed. But behind the scenes, I was preparing something he would never forget. First, I met with a lawyer, quietly. I explained everything, not emotionally, factually. Then I made changes, major changes. The cottage, it was no longer in the will under his name. Instead, I placed it into a preservation trust under strict conditions. It would become a retreat center for families dealing with terminal illness in my wife's name. Her dream of children running through it, that would happen, just not through him. And there was more. Every financial support I had been giving him, the extra monthly transfers, the temporary help, they ended. Not aggressively, just ended. When he noticed, he asked casually, "Hey, Dad, did the bank mess up?" I looked at him calmly. No. That was it. No explanation, no fight, just no. And slowly, I watched confusion turn into realization. He had assumed stability, assumed comfort, assumed inheritance. But assumptions are fragile things, and when they crack, they make noise. The final moment came 3 weeks later. He showed up at my house late at night, angry. "What did you do?" I stayed seated. "I'm not sure what you mean." "The cottage. I went there today and the locks were changed." "Yes," I replied calmly, "they were." "You can't just do that." "I can," I said quietly. "It's mine." Silence. Pure shock. "You said it would be mine." "One day, not now." His breathing grew heavier. "What is this about? That girl? Are you seriously this petty?" "Petty?" I almost laughed. "This is about your mother." He froze. I continued. "She built that place with love. You used it like a weekend rental. That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is rewriting her memory because it's convenient." For the first time, he didn't have a comeback. I changed the will. His face drained of color. "You what?" "The cottage will help families who understand what time truly means." He stared at me like I had betrayed him. But betrayal, that started long before this moment. I told him, "You chose comfort over respect, and comfort is temporary." He whispered something I'll never forget. "You're choosing strangers over your own son." I shook my head. "No, I'm choosing her." And in that sentence, everything settled. He walked out without another word. The door closed, and this time, it wasn't a small click. It echoed. Did I feel powerful? Not exactly. Did I feel satisfied? A little. But mostly, I felt peaceful. Because revenge isn't about destroying someone. It's about restoring balance. Months passed. The cottage transformed. Families arrived quietly. Children's laughter returned. Not party music, not empty noise. Real laughter. The kind she always imagined. One afternoon, I stood on the porch again. Sunset reflecting on the lake. And for the first time since she left, I felt like I kept my promise. As for my son, he didn't speak to me for a long time, but slowly, distance changes perspective. One evening he called, his voice softer. "I didn't understand," he admitted. And maybe that was the true turning point. Not my decision, but his reflection. If you're listening to this, maybe you've felt betrayal too. Maybe from someone you raised, someone you loved, and maybe your blood boiled like mine did. But here's what I learned. Anger shouts, wisdom whispers. I could have screamed, I could have cut him off forever, but instead I taught him something. Respect isn't inherited, it's earned. Legacy isn't property, it's responsibility. And love sometimes means saying no. The cottage still stands by the lake. It still holds her spirit, but now it holds something else too. Purpose. And whenever I hear children running across that wooden floor, I know what happened next wasn't revenge. It was justice. And justice, when done quietly, lasts forever. Never mistake access for ownership. Never confuse inheritance with entitlement. And never forget, the things built with love deserve to be protected with courage.